Gordon, thanks for taking this time to answer these questions that we've received on the website. One of the questions that happens over and over again is someone says that they've heard masturbating is healthy and that it's normal and there's nothing wrong with it. What is your opinion?
Okay, good question. Again, in my experience working with those who struggle with sexual addiction, masturbation plays a huge part in it because of the way the limbic part of the brain works. It works on the pleasure principle and can never really get enough, and that's why it kind of creates the craving to do something pleasurable over and over again, and that's where masturbation fits in. Many say that it's a normal, healthy practice. In my experience with clients, and perhaps the reason we get so many questions about this topic on the website, is that there is a little bit of uncomfortableness, or they're feeling unsure about the practice. It tends to leave a feeling afterwards of questioning whether it's really right or not for the individual. So perhaps the answer really lies in the question itself. And I would ask the question, well, why are so many people asking that question? For example, if we don't have people emailing questions to us saying, is it all right for me to have an intimate relationship with my spouse? Why doesn't anyone ask that question? Because there's just no reason to. It's just an accepted thing with individuals, and it seems to be universal that that's an appropriate thing, and there's no concern or question about it. With masturbation, most every human being experiences that in their lifetime, for sure, especially with adolescents. And there's all kinds of different degrees and levels of masturbation, and it can become a very powerful and driving addiction that can consume a person's life. And so I guess it's to categorize it as a practice. I would say that it's those that are the healthiest have learned to accept their sexuality, but also have learned how to refrain from constant just allowing pleasure to flow when they feel like it. When that happens, there seems to be a feeling of discouragement, depression, a feeling that they've kind of taken more from life than they're receiving in a way. So what I have found beneficial, and with many of those individuals that I work with, is to help them work on practices that can teach them to refrain from it. There's also a question that I would ask, is it wrong not to masturbate? And pretty much universally, when I've asked individuals that, they say, of course it's not. It's not wrong not to. And so it's kind of, individuals have to answer that question for themselves, but as far as feeling grounded in themselves, it's something to be really, really careful with, because it can become an all-consuming addiction. I mean, I know individuals that literally masturbate 4 or 5 times a day. They can barely function without it. That's not a normal, healthy practice in any way, shape, or form. It's affecting their work, it's affecting their relationships, and so forth. But as far as developing into secure mental health and a spiritual practice, being able to refrain from self-pleasure and indulgence is the best way to find inner peace. That has been my experience working with clients. And I know years ago there was the Kinsey report that came out, and quite honestly, that Kinsey report has been shown to be one of the most flawed studies ever created about sexual practices of individuals. That 90% of people, and I can't remember for sure what they said, but it was the vast majority of people masturbate on a regular basis, that it's healthy, that it's normal. And many people will disagree with this, and you know what, everyone has their opinion. I'm just giving you my opinion from the individuals that I've worked with, is that learning to refrain and honor the self in a respectful, dignified manner is the best approach in learning to deal with this. There was a fascinating book written by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And in this book, there's a section called, or a chapter that's entitled The Mystery of Sexual Transmutation. And Napoleon Hill, who wrote this book, was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie in the early 1900s to spend 20 years studying the lives of those people who were extremely successful in their lives, like Thomas Edison and other inventors and other people who were, anyway, just extremely successful in business. And he did this, and he researched and studied the lives of those individuals that were the most successful. And what he came to understand is that these individuals had a very high sexual nature, but they learned how to take this energy, this life